Take FDI in retail. What is the controversy about? The first comprehensive cabinet paper on FDI in retail was prepared by the NDA government in 2002. It was considered by a group of ministers. That paper acknowledged that FDI in retail was essential to improve the supply chain in agriculture, which alone will bring benefits to both producers and consumers. That paper also endorsed the argument that FDI in retail would generate millions of jobs. The idea was never rejected. So, why should there be a controversy when the government announced its intention to lay down guidelines in order to enable FDI in retail? Government has made it clear that the ultimate decision whether FDI in retail will be allowed in any state will rest with the state government concerned. No state can say that other states should also allow FDI in retail. Similarly, no state can say that other states should not allow FDI in retail. The controversy over FDI in retail is, in my view, unnecessary and unjustified. There should also be no controversy over reforms in the coal, mining, power, petroleum and natural gas, and infrastructure sectors, including roads, railway, and shipping. It is these sectors that are the drivers of growth. It is these sectors that will create millions of jobs. It is these sectors that will produce the goods and services that will benefit the people of India. Every government is entitled to lay down policies. Opposition to policies is legitimate. Obstructionism is not.
We believe that apart from wireless, broadband wireless connectivity, we need to lay the fiber optic network in this country, because that will be the backbone for the communications revolution, which in turn will be essential for the fast-paced economic growth that we are looking at. We intend to lay the fiber optic network in this country, connect 250,000 gram panchayats, hopefully by December 2013. The last mile connectivity then can be done through wireless broadband. This will allow data to flow at enormous speeds. Data which will be used for education, data which will be used for medicine, e-medicine, e-education, e-commerce, G2C, data that will provide public services, data that will provide information to the Aam Aadmi, to the Kisan, the agriculturalist, to the trader, to the panchayat, and that in turn will help empower people.
We have pushed for the public-private partnership model and policy framework. Ladies and gentlemen, with this initiative, 8,000 kilometers have been awarded in the last 1 year, and it is estimated to generate approximately 80,000 crores. Awards of road aside, under the National Highways Development Program, from June 2004 to September 2012, we have built up 10,687 kilometers of quality highways, and with an investment of rupees 6,178 crores. Another major steps we are taking up is to launch a large program of public funded projects under the engineering, procurement and construction EPC or turnkey mode. A new EPC contract document has been finalized on fixed cost and time basis to replace the traditional item rate contracts, which have the issue of time and cost overruns. We are planning to award about 4,000 kilometers of roads for two laning on EPC mode in the current financial year. To expedite this, we have issued a general request for qualification based on capacity rather than individual project specific. The evaluations would be done in a transparent manner and will be posted on our websites so that the bidder has opportunity to represent. The qualified bidders would automatically be eligible for any projects up to the capacity for which they have been qualified. Friends, let me bring in a matter of policy here. As an important policy matter, we have decided that the existing national highways and those in pipelines will be taken to minimum level of 2-lane with paved shoulder specifications. While undertaking new projects, we aim to connect the remote parts of the country with the mainstream and be a partner in the development process.
India has developed a GPS-aided GEO augmented navigation system known as Gagan. It has been developed by AAI with the support of ISRO with an estimated cost of 775 crores, and it is likely to be rolled out by July 2013. This would bring India on threshold of redefining navigation in the region from land-based to satellite-based system. India is only the fourth country in the world after USA, Japan and Europe to have such a navigation system. This will be helpful for landing aircraft in tough weather and terrain like Mangalore and Leh airports. This will also help in reducing flying time and fuel consumption by providing state navigation. The Gagan is designed to provide the improved accuracy, availability and integrity necessary to enable users to rely on GPS for all phases of flight, from en route through approach to the qualified airports within the Gagan service system. Gagan will also provide the capability for increased accuracy in position reporting, thereby permitting more uniform and high-quality air traffic management. In addition, Gagan will provide benefits beyond aviation to all modes of transportation, including maritime, highways, railroads, and public services, such as defense services, security agencies, telecom industry, and personal users of position location applications. Flight inspection of Gagan signals are being carried out at Kozhikode, Hyderabad, Nagpur, and Bangalore, and the results have been encouraging so far. At present, 5 airports are being operationalized under PPP mode, which include the Cochin International Airport, Hyderabad, Bangalore, New Delhi, and Mumbai. Government of India has so far granted in principle approval for setting up of 15 new greenfield airports.
Therefore, I would like to share a few thoughts and respond to your questions, concerns, and suggestions. Production of the food grain has been one of the important success stories of the Indian agriculture in recent times. It is definitely a matter of pride for me as the Minister of Agriculture to be associated with record food grain production for the consecutive 2 years. We have been successful in exporting around 10 million tons of rice, 2.5 million tons of wheat and sugar, and sizable quantity of cotton too. As against the buffer requirement of around 21.2 million tons, we have around 70 million tons of food grain stock in the central pool. We could achieve this due to tireless efforts of our farmers, supported by the very conducive policies and initiatives of the central government and state government. Even this year, despite the erratic and delayed monsoon in some parts of the country, in fact, we are aware that 4 states who have declared drought in certain districts from their own area. That is Karnataka, Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Rajasthan. So, despite the erratic and delayed monsoon in some parts of our country, I do not expect a major drop in food grain production. Better rainfall in August and September has provided us opportunity for good Rabi season ahead.
Investment in power sector has increased from 15% during the 10th plan to about 43% in the 11th plan. However, this is largely confined to generation projects. We are working now to encourage private sector investment in interstate as well as intrastate transmission systems. Through mechanism of open competitive bidding with long-term concessions, this will accelerate the flow of private investment in transmission while reducing costs and improving efficiency. Progress has been by and all very good. I think there will be an investment of 13,000 crores, private investment, particularly on these intra and also interstate transmission lines. Under the National Flagship Program of Electrification, RGVVI, Rajiv Gandhi, Vidyutikarana Yojana, we have surpassed the Bharat Nirman target of electrification of 1 lakh villages and providing free electricity connection to 1.75 crore BPL households. By the end of the 11th plan, 1.04 lakh unelectrified villages had been electrified, 1.95 crore BPL households provided free electricity connections. By 15/9/2012, 1,05,714 unelectrified villages have been provided electric infrastructure and 2.01 crore BPL households given free connections. This is besides achieving the intensive electrification of over 2.69 lakh partially electrified villages. Government has proposed to continue the RGVI program in the 12th plan in order to complete the spillover work started in the 11th plan, to cover the remaining villages and BPL households under the ongoing program and to extend it to cover the remaining habitations irrespective of the population of the villages.
There are two new developments. One is the price of oil at the global level has gone up extraordinarily. I agree that it happened before, but never did it rise and stay this high for such a long period. And we believe that it has made a huge difference to the situation. The second thing is, unlike any time in the past, rupee has depreciated sharply. For example, the average price of the Indian basket of crude oil, which was 85.09 per barrel during 2010-11, rose to 111.89 barrels in 2011-12. It has since been going up and down. As though this is not a bad enough development, Indian rupee has also depreciated significantly. To be precise, the rupee US dollar exchange rate, which was around at rupees 44.42 during July 2011, rose to a level of rupees 57.22 in June 2012.